Hey mates, good afternoon. How are we all doing today? You might be wondering where I'm at this time. I'm actually at another spot down in the state of Florida right now. We're actually on the Gasparilla Island at the southern tip, which is in Lee County, Florida. But the well-known town that is on Gasparilla Island is Boca Grande, which actually in English means big mouth. And I'll explain why. So actually, like up where the other people are, there actually is a little inlet that connects the Charlotte Harbor to my left and then the Gulf of Mexico to my right. So you figure, you're technically not supposed to swim in this area because, well, there's a lot of ebb and flow tide. So ebb, I believe, means tide that comes from the Charlotte Harbor that flows out, but then the flow tide comes from the Gulf, making its way into the Charlotte Harbor. You could say that it's sort of an alternating process, and there's a lot of opposing current. So that's why it's not particularly safe to swim in this little inlet. And way out in the distance on the other side is where the Cayo Costa Island is located. There's no direct bridge that leads there. You can only get over there by boat. But because of this large mouth that connects the Charlotte Harbor and the Gulf, that's how the town Boca Grande really got its name. And you figure, too, back in the 1500s, a lot of Spaniards were well known to explore this part of the Americas. One particular name that might come to you is Juan Ponce de Leon. He was one of the most popular Spanish explorers during his time. And point in fact, there's actually a lot of streets that I've seen that is called Ponce de Leon. But you figure he ran into the Indian culture that existed here during the time, and that was called the Calusa culture. And actually there's a couple of places named after them, such as the famous river near Fort Myers called the Caloosahatchee. But yeah, it's just a neat spot here. And actually, right up here is the famous Lighthouse Museum, which is actually open for tours. Well, self-guided tours, to be specific, but it tells you, there's a lot of signs in there that tells you more about the history of the island. Like back in the early 1900s, this island was well known for the phosphate industry. Phosphate is basically a combination of, chemical composition would be PO3-, something like that. So phosphate essentially has it's made up of organic compounds, which is essential for life to function. And, you figure farming in Florida back in the day, phosphorus was one of the most important nutrients. And you have to figure with tilling and harvesting, the soil would be deprived of phosphorus. So phosphate had to be collected from particular areas, ports. And there was actually a railroad that was owned by a company called Agrico that ran all the way from here on this island to a little town called Arcadia, which is a little bit of a hike. However, though, the railroad no longer exists because it was only a matter of time as it approached the mid-1900s that the phosphate industry went further up north to areas such as Tampa, for example. But yeah, that's why phosphate isn't really drawn from here anymore. And actually, now I remember, the last load of phosphate that came off of this island was in 1979. Yeah, that's right. But yeah, it's just, there's a lot of history here, as I was saying. I mean, Boca Grande started out as a trading town for tarpon, especially. That was a very common fish that was sought after around this area. And, of course, the phosphate industry. There was a lot of business here. It's alright, mates. Hey, I thought I would share that with you guys. I hope you learned something about the area, just a little bit. Might make another video just to cut it up, so to speak. That way it's not all in one video. So alright, mates. Take care, and journey on a journey is outwards. Take care, folks.